Today I'm talking about American languages and the potential that they have. We always think of America as an English-speaking country, but it's actually not. And in history before 1776, it really wasn't. And there's so much that it can offer. Hey, if you're new here, want to subscribe, like, and I really appreciate it. Thanks. Texas first, that's where I'm from. Texas has several indigenous languages, though unlike most of the United States, they were pretty much wiped out. There is Caddo in the northeast, which is the center of a mound civilization, and that language does still exist, so it would be great if we could come with that back. Now, me personally, I grew up on the edge of the Spanish-speaking culture in a bilingual family, and Spanish was one of the languages of the Texas Republic, so it makes sense that we do promote that across Texas. It's part of our history, and it's definitely part of the fabric of our society. In the West, the Apache languages were the native language of Geronimo, and it would be great if we could bring with those back. It would give Texas something that would be acknowledged around the world as truly, truly unique. Also, what would really make Texas truly special is if we promoted our special Slavic language that we have, the Silesian language, which is related to Czech, which is a Slavic language like Russian, spoken by a few families in south central Texas, and it would be a shame if we let this go. Louisiana is an interesting case because it was majority French speaking, the language of a major power. It was the center of French colonial America at one point. And New Orleans, as a jewel, it could be so much more if it spoke its own first language, French. There are still people and families and even communities which speak French, and all we would need to do is re-inject it into the school system of Louisiana as the language of instruction and bring it back across Louisiana, and America could have its own Quebec. It could have its own Afrikaans, its own Zululand in Louisiana, because the French language would be that powerful. It would change the United States, and with it, the world. Southeast of the United States, before the Europeans came, was one of the most diverse places on the globe linguistically. Now, despite that, it still does have residual elements of what was there before. The Cherokee language is growing, and it's unlike anything else in the world can offer. It has its own alphabet that would send a message to the entire world, like Hebrew does, with your own alphabet and your own script, that you are truly unique, that you are a different civilization. Now, there is Gullah, which is an African-American fusion language that emerged in the North Carolina islands as slaves escaped and formed their own communities. It would be terrible to lose that. You also have the Seminole language, which was a fusion of Native American languages that emerged after the Spanish conquest as loads of different tribes fled into the Everglades along with some slaves, and they formed a new Native American language that was kind of a Creole across different Native American spectrums, and we should really promote that across Florida. There are various communities of other non-native languages. There's African American English, which is on a dialect continuum, and we should really promote that. But there's also an older version of English, which is spoken in some of the Chesapeake Bay Islands, and it is probably the oldest, as far as dialect goes, that's closest to Old English. And we should really promote this in the state school systems of Virginia, so that we don't lose this. It would be a deep loss to humanity if we lost what is perhaps the closest dialect to Old English. Now, there are other smaller groups, but what I would suggest we do is take languages in each of the southeastern states from native cultures, excluding Louisiana, which we should definitely readopt French, and take these native cultures and teach them in the state school system so that each of the American states across the southeast have something truly unique about them, and we can use this actually like the Alabama state flag. Re-adopted Native American symbols to replace the Confederate flag. What we can do across the South to replace racist issues is to reintroduce Native American culture to give the South a unique identity. I love languages, and America is full of them. It has over 475 languages, and over 175 of them are not European or from elsewhere. They're indigenous languages, and it would be a real shame if we lost these. America has never been just one language. It's been a fusion of languages, but instead of being a melting pot, we should be a blooming pot, so that we can appreciate all these different cultures in a multilingual America, and we would be so much better for it. Yes, make America great again, but let's redefine what that America is. The Northeast, of course, has New York, which is worldwide famous for how many languages are spoken in the city. But it didn't begin as an English-speaking city. It began as Dutch, and there are over 100,000 people across the United States who know, speak, or use Dutch on a relatively frequent basis. But the Italian community is one which is really important. Little Italy. It would be a shame if we lost this, and we need to promote this across the New York City boroughs. Italian and other immigrant languages, even Irish, which was spoken at one time, not just in Boston. And as far as other Indo-European languages in the vicinity of the Northeast, the Pennsylvania Dutch and German. German is spoken by 1.2 million people across the United States. It's an integral part of who we are. It had newspapers across the states in Ohio, Minnesota, other states. There were regiments in the Civil War which were entirely German-speaking. It would be a shame if we didn't promote this language in our school system, in our legal system even, and reassure America that it's not melting us down. It's actually creating us, blooming these cultures, not transplanting them and washing them away, but transplanting them and have them bloom in an American form. As far as the cultures that were already here, the Iroquois languages, Mohican, I'm sure you're familiar with that, that's still spoken, and we need to actually address the fact that these Native American languages were here before us, and we owe them the respect of promoting them in every single state of the American Union, and hopefully seeing a resurgence of them across the United States. The Great Lakes, that's not a lake, are an area which were dominated by the Algonquin languages. I think I'm pronouncing it right, Ojibwe, and this is spoken in parts of Canada as well, and there's many languages which cross over the lakes between Canada and America, and it would be a shame if we lost these cultural heritages. The names like Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, these don't come from our languages, they come from the languages that were there before. And it's important that we keep these cultures alive and promote these languages in the state school systems. And if we did one per state, it would really make a difference, and it would give new confidence around the Great Lakes of a cultural identity in the wake of the Rust Belt, which has left so many unemployed, without jobs and without hope. My time in Chicago, I used to live there, you have a Greek area, signs in Greek. We could spread that across the city and teach children Greek. It would transform Chicago, and it would build links across the world with Greece. Minnesota is similar. It has such a deep Norwegian heritage. You could teach Norwegian in those schools, and Finnish, which is a deep community. There's several famous people from Minnesota who are of Finnish ancestry, including one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence of Finnish descent, not from Minnesota, but there you go. And if we actually promote these, it will change the face of America forever, and it will stop this narrow-minded bigotry which comes from us all being the same. And it will give people of European ancestry a deeper cultural identity, which gives them a sense of belonging, which is really something that America is deeply missing at the moment. One of these is Polish. Polish has quite a few people in Chicago and Cleveland and around the vicinity, and this could be taught, this could be promoted, it could be given to children's groups and local community groups, and given radios and television to promote the language in the Midwest. In the upper Midwest, you have Sioux, you have other native languages of this type, and you also have quite a few German speakers, and it would be so good if we could promote both of these. Mount Rushmore is so wrongly built upon a Sioux holy land, so why don't we, instead of talking of reparations or fulfilling those kinds of financial things, why don't we give a boost to the Sioux culture and say, here, we acknowledge this was wrong. Let's reignite the Sioux culture and language, acknowledging how powerful these people were in the past and how much we want them to be part of our America in the future by promoting their language. In the southwest of the United States, you have a heavily Spanish-speaking population, but you do have one jewel that should be the crown of the United States in terms of language, and that is the Navajo people. They number almost 200,000 people speak Navajo, and their geographic territory is bigger than the country of Belgium. What we should do is make the Navajo people a 51st state and decree that the Navajo language is the official language of that state. So for the first time, we have a national language that is not English on a statewide level, and it could be fully done if the Navajo people agree with it, and it would expand their language greatly and contribute to a truly multilingual United States. Now, in California, we have significant Asian populations. Like these goats? We have significant Asian population in California. You know, the Vietnamese fought with us. They are our friends in terms of those that are here. We should promote their language. We also have Chinese, Tagalog. The Philippines was a close part of the American history, and they're part of us. So we should really promote these Asiatic languages in California to give a more multinational feel within the United States, so that we can then go out to the rest of the world and say, look, we embrace your culture, now embrace ours. There's nothing more powerful than friendship. Pacific Northwest is a treasure trove of languages. It gave us the word Seattle, not just place names, but Tillamook, the famous cheese product, and it's given us lots more than we actually realize, and it would be a shame if we lost this. What we need in order to save those native languages is for them to become recognized under law by the states of Washington and Oregon, mainly, and there's others in Idaho, and this would give us a rich diversity which we are lacking, frankly, because if you can drive from Boston to Portland, Oregon and just speak the same language, you're missing something, you're missing a part of what makes you human, linguistic diversity. And America is so poor if it's going to lose that special part of our humanity. You see the goats? Probably not. In Alaska, there are 20 official languages. These are native languages, and these are in some sense protected, in some sense promoted, to a varying degree as they go. Among them the Tlingit and the Haida. And this is so important because Alaska is really leading the way when it comes to native languages. But one where it lacks behind is there's actually Russian spoken in a place called Nikolaevsk. The majority language of the community, over 2/3 speak the Russian as their native language. And this shows that you can have communities within the United States where English is not the majority language. And we need to actually change the mindset that that's possible. But it's extremely American to do so because we all came from somewhere else. Unless you speak the Native American languages, it is who we are. We can't just wish away our ancestors. They matter. And that's where our languages matter. But it's more than that. Every language is a microcosm unto a world. Well, I hope you enjoyed today. And I learned a lesson. You have to wake up earlier to film outside because the light, it's too bright now. Next weekend, huh? Hey, check this out. I'm sorry, I almost forgot Hawaiian. That's a language we need to think about. Loads comes from this language that we don't even realize. Wiki from Wikipedia means fast, huh? And this is the language of what was a unified kingdom and its own political state. We need to protect that language and promote it across Hawaii. Frankly, if you move to Hawaii and don't learn Hawaiian, shame on you. Shame on you. But let's promote Hawaiian in the state systems, in the schools, everything. It will send a message to the world that America is more than just one culture. We are 50 cultures, with many cultures within them. And that is stronger than anything we have right now can ever be. Alright. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you next time.